Supreme Commander Krell stood aboard the bridge of the Valian Empire's flagship, Eternal Dawn, his iridescent scales shimmering under the soft bioluminescent lighting. The massive vessel, stretching 12 kilometers from bow to stern, represented the pinnacle of galactic engineering. Its quantum crystalline hull could deflect energy weapons with ease, while its artificial gravity generators allowed for maneuvers that would tear lesser ships apart. But now, as he studied the tactical display showing Earth's defensive fleet, he felt nothing but contempt. The human vessels looked like toys compared to his armada's majesty. Their largest ship barely reached a kilometer in length, and their hulls were made of what appeared to be primitive metal alloys. No quantum signatures, no dimensional shields, not even basic gravitic propulsion. These are the vessels that have been causing such concern among the outer colonies. Krellixar's secondary breathing vents fluttered in amusement. They looked like mining ships that someone bolted weapons onto. His executive officer, Sub-Commander Venra, stepped forward cautiously. Supreme Commander, the intelligence reports suggest we should not underestimate them. The Proxima colony reported significant losses before. The Proxima colony was defended by incompetence, Krellixar interrupted. Look at them, Venra. Their ships still use chemical propulsion. They haven't even mastered basic quantum mechanics. The tactical display showed 37 human vessels arranged in a loose defensive formation around their homeworld. Their flagship, designated TNS Thermopylae, held position at the center of their formation. Its hull was dark and angular, barely reflecting any light from the nearby sun. Open a channel, Krellixar commanded. Let's give these primitives a chance to surrender before we demonstrate true civilization's might. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the bridge of the Thermopylae. Admiral Elena Chen sat in a simple chair, surrounded by what appeared to be mechanical interfaces rather than the neural networks common throughout the galaxy. She wore a plain dark uniform with minimal ornamentation. This is Supreme Commander Krellixar of the Valian Empire. Your species has repeatedly interfered with our colonial expansion. Your primitive fleet stands no chance against our superior technology. Surrender now, and we will be merciful in establishing your place within our empire. Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral as she studied something on one of her archaic displays. Supreme Commander, I'm curious. Have you ever heard of the phrase correlation does not imply causation? Krellixar's translation matrix struggled with the idiom. Your primitive sayings are irrelevant. You have seen our fleet. You have seen our power. Your response. My response is that you're making a lot of assumptions based on what you think you see, Chen replied. For instance, you assume that because our ships use chemical propulsion, we haven't mastered quantum mechanics. You assume that because we don't use neural interfaces, we lack advanced technology. But tell me, Commander, have you ever considered that perhaps we choose to use these technologies for a reason? The only reason to use inferior technology is inability to create superior solutions, Krellixar declared. Your attempts at deception are. Target lock detected, Venra suddenly announced. Multiple signatures, but that's impossible. Their weapons aren't even powered. What? Krellixar turned to his tactical display, but it showed no change in the human fleet's status. Here's another human saying for you. Admiral Chen's voice carried an edge of steel. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. You see, we learned long ago that dependence on complex technology creates complex vulnerabilities. Your quantum shields are very impressive. Against quantum weapons, your neural interfaces are incredibly advanced and incredibly vulnerable to the right kind of interference. The first human strike arrived before Krellixar could respond. There was no energy signature, no warning. Just a series of small objects, barely larger than escape pods, detaching from the human vessels and accelerating to relativistic speeds using simple chemical propulsion. The Valian fleet's defensive systems, designed to detect energy weapons and quantum signatures, didn't even register them as threats. The kinetic kill vehicles struck 3 Valian ships simultaneously. No shields designed to stop energy weapons could halt thousands of tons of tungsten moving at appreciable fractions of light speed. The vessels simply ceased to exist, converted into expanding clouds of plasma and debris. All ships, open fire, Krulkstar roared. Launch fighters, full spread of quantum torpedoes. Your fighters use artificial gravity for maneuverability. Chen's voice remained calm as her fleet began to move. Ours use rotating frames and acceleration couches. Primitive, by your standards. But they work just fine in any kind of electronic warfare environment. They also work just fine when your gravity generators fail. As if on cue, the Eternal Dawn shuddered as its artificial gravity fluctuated. Krulksar stumbled, his perfect balance betrayed by the sudden return to natural physics. Across his fleet, ships began reporting critical system failures as quantum fields collapsed and neural networks went dark. "You see, Supreme Commander," Chen continued, "humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our paranoia. We plan for everything to fail. We build redundancies. We keep the old systems working alongside the new ones. And most importantly, we never, ever assume that complex means better." The human fleet accelerated toward the Valian Armada, their primitive ships now revealing their true nature. What had appeared to be simple chemical engines were actually layered propulsion systems, able to function even when their more advanced components were compromised. What had seemed like basic metal hulls were in fact composites of materials chosen specifically to be resistant to quantum-based scanning. As his mighty flagship began to drift, its quantum core safely shutting down to prevent a catastrophic overload, Krulksar finally understood. He hadn't been looking at primitive vessels at all. He had been looking at warships designed with one purpose: to fight and win even when everything went wrong. The last thing he saw before the bridge went dark was Admiral Chen's face on the failing view screen. "Don't worry, Supreme Commander. We'll be happy to demonstrate proper redundancy engineering once you're ready to surrender. After all, teaching is one of humanity's favorite pastimes." Sub-Commander Venra had never seen anything like it. The mighty Valian fleet, pride of the Empire, was being systematically dismantled by vessels they had dismissed as primitive only hours ago. The Eternal Dawn's emergency lighting cast an eerie red glow across the bridge as backup systems struggled to maintain basic life support. "Status report," Krulksar demanded, his scales now a mottled gray of stress and anger. The Supreme Commander gripped his command chair with all four hands as artificial gravity continued to fluctuate. 15 capital ships disabled, sir. 23 suffering critical systems failures. The humans are. Venra's voice trailed off as she studied her mechanical backup displays. "They're not even targeting our weapons or engines. They're systematically destroying our quantum field generators." A harsh laugh echoed across the bridge. The communication system crackled to life, operating on ancient radio waves rather than quantum entanglement. Admiral Chen's voice filled the command center. "You're probably wondering why we're not simply destroying your ships outright. Would you like me to explain, Supreme Commander?" Krulksar's secondary breathing vents flared. "You mock us even now." "Not mocking. Teaching. You see, we've studied the Valian Empire extensively. Your entire civilization is built on quantum field manipulation. Your ships, your weapons, even your basic tools, all dependent on quantum technology. It's elegant, advanced, and incredibly efficient, until it stops working." As if to emphasize her point, another series of kinetic impacts struck the quantum field generators of 3 more Valian vessels. The ships immediately began to drift, their crews scrambling to activate backup systems they had never expected to use. "Here's today's lesson in human military doctrine," Chen continued. "We don't just plan for system failures. We plan to deliberately induce them in our enemies. Your quantum fields are wonderful for stopping energy weapons and guided projectiles, but they create distinct gravitational signatures, signatures that make them very easy to target with simple, dumb kinetic weapons." Venra watched in horror as the human vessels began their next phase of attack. What they had initially dismissed as debris from their kinetic strikes was actually a cloud of millions of tiny metal spheres now spreading throughout the battlefield. As each sphere struck a Valian ship's hull, it released a burst of electromagnetic energy. Quantum fields require precise control to maintain stability, Chen explained. EMPs disrupt that control. Not enough to cause a catastrophic failure. We're not monsters, after all, but enough to force your safety systems to shut them down. And without quantum fields, your ships are just very large, very vulnerable targets. You claim to be teaching us. Krell-Sar snarled. What possible lesson could primitives like you teach the Valian Empire? The danger of technological monocultures, Chen replied. You built your entire civilization around a single technological base. Humanity. We never met a technology we didn't either steal, adapt, or find a way to counter. Did you know we still maintain fleets of pure chemical rockets, mechanical computers, even sail-powered ships? Not because we need them, but because we never know when we might need them. The tactical display showed human vessels now moving through the disabled Valian fleet with impunity. Their primitive chemical engines were revealed to be part of a multi-layered propulsion system. When running silent, they used chemical propulsion. When speed was needed, fusion drives kicked in. And in rare moments, glimpses of more exotic drives could be seen. Your ships are beautiful, Chen continued. Perfect expressions of quantum engineering. But humans learned long ago that perfection is the enemy of survival. Evolution favors adaptability over optimization. That's why our ships looked like they were cobbled together from different technologies, because they were. A new signal appeared on the tactical display. More human ships were arriving, but these looked entirely different from the first wave. Where the initial fleet had appeared primitive and utilitarian, these vessels gleamed with advanced technology. Quantum drives, energy shields, and weapons that even the Valians didn't recognize. Ah, yes. Chen's voice carried a note of pride. You're probably wondering about our actual advanced ships, the ones we don't show anyone until we have to. You see, Supreme Commander, everything you've seen so far, that was just our defensive fleet. The ships we use to handle people who might be hostile. These new arrivals. They're our diplomatic fleet, the ones we use when dealing with civilizations who understand the value of talking before shooting. Venra watched as the new human vessels took up position around the disabled Valian fleet. Their quantum signatures were unlike anything she had ever seen, suggesting technological developments far beyond what the Empire had achieved. So, Supreme Commander Krell-Sar, you have a choice to make. We can continue this demonstration of why technological diversity trumps technological superiority, or we can have a civilized discussion about the Valian Empire's expansion policies. I should mention that these diplomatic vessels carry weapons based on your own quantum technology, just significantly more advanced versions. What's your preference? In the silence that followed, Venra realized that humanity's greatest deception hadn't been their seemingly primitive ships or their redundant systems. It had been convincing the galaxy that they were a young, unsophisticated species when they were anything but. They had mastered the art of appearing weak when they were strong, simple when they were sophisticated, and primitive when they were actually far more advanced than anyone had guessed. The war, she realized, had been lost the moment they assumed humanity's technological choices were based on limitation rather than deliberate strategy. Supreme Commander Krell-Sar stared at the tactical display with all four eyes, his pride warring with his duty to the Empire. The situation had deteriorated far beyond anything he could have imagined mere hours ago. His mighty fleet lay largely disabled, surrounded by human vessels that now showed their true technological sophistication. But it was the latest development that truly shook him to his core. Quantum signature analysis complete, Venra reported, her voice barely above a whisper. The new human vessels. They're not just using advanced versions of our quantum technology. They're using something entirely different. The fields they're generating. They're stable in configurations that should be impossible. Impossible is a strong word. Admiral Chen's voice came through once again. We prefer to think of it as not yet understood by others. You see, quantum mechanics was just the beginning. We've had centuries to take it further, to explore paths that your civilization never considered because they didn't fit your existing paradigm. The tactical display shifted, showing new details of the human diplomatic fleet. Their quantum fields didn't just shield their ships, they actively warped space-time around them in ways that the Valiant sensors could barely comprehend. Would you like to understand why we maintain our seemingly primitive fleet, Supreme Commander? Chen asked. It's not just about redundancy or technological diversity. It's about understanding. You can't truly master advanced technology until you understand its foundations. Every human ship captain starts their career on chemical rockets. Every engineer begins with mechanical systems. We build up, layer by layer, understanding each step. A new series of readings appeared on the tactical display. The human ships were now generating quantum fields that somehow synchronized with the disabled Valiant vessels' own collapsed fields, stabilizing them. That's why we can do this, Chen continued. We're not just shutting down your quantum systems, we understand them well enough to control them. Your ships aren't just disabled, they're now part of our quantum network. We could restart them if we wanted to, or keep them permanently dormant. The choice is yours. Krelixer's scales shifted to the deep blue of resignation. You could have deployed these advanced ships from the beginning. You could have dominated this encounter immediately. Why this elaborate deception? Because the goal was never domination, Chen replied. The goal was understanding, yours and ours. We needed you to understand that technological superiority isn't about having the most advanced systems. It's about having the most complete understanding of all systems, from the simplest to the most complex. The tactical display suddenly blazed with new information as the human ships began transmitting detailed technical data. Krell-XR watched in amazement as centuries of quantum field research scrolled past, showing development paths that the Valiant Empire had never explored. This is a gift, Chen explained. A small sample of our quantum mechanics research. You'll notice these are developments your scientists dismissed as impossible centuries ago. We're giving you this because we want you to understand something fundamental about humanity. We never accept impossibility. When someone tells us something can't be done, we take it as a challenge. Venera, who had been analyzing the transmitted data, suddenly straightened. Supreme Commander, these equations, they solve the Korith paradox. They show how to maintain quantum field stability in chaotic systems. This changes everything we thought we knew about quantum mechanics. That's just the beginning, Chen said. We're prepared to share more, much more. But only with civilizations that understand cooperation is more valuable than conquest. The Valiant Empire has achieved remarkable things, but you've allowed your advancement to stagnate because you assumed you had reached the pinnacle of possible development. The human diplomatic vessels began moving into a new formation, their impossible quantum fields creating patterns that seemed to defy the laws of physics as the Valians understood them. Here's what's going to happen next, Chen continued. We're going to demonstrate something that your scientists have deemed impossible for the past 1,000 years. The simultaneous quantum entanglement of multiple macro-scale objects across light years of space. We call it the quantum web. It's how we maintain communications and coordination across our territory without relying on traditional FTL methods. As she spoke, the space between the human ships began to shimmer with patterns of quantum interference that the Valiant sensors couldn't properly interpret. The effect spread to encompass the disabled Valiant fleet, creating a vast network of quantum connections that somehow remained stable despite violating everything the Valians knew about quantum physics. Consider this a preview of what cooperation with humanity could offer, Chen said. We're not interested in conquering the Valiant Empire. We're interested in helping you break free of the technological and philosophical limitations you've placed on yourselves. The question is, are you interested in learning? In that moment, facing the evidence of humanity's true capabilities, Krelixar realized that this encounter had never been about military victory. It had been a lesson, an elaborate demonstration designed to shatter the Empire's assumptions about both humanity and their own technological development. The humans hadn't just defeated his fleet, they had opened his eyes to possibilities he had never imagined existed. In the observation deck of the TNS Thermopylae, Supreme Commander Krelixar stood before the vast window, watching teams of human engineers working alongside his own crew to restore power to the Valian fleet. His scales had taken on the muted gray of deep contemplation, a color he hadn't worn since his early days at the Imperial Academy. "Your people are remarkably efficient," he noted as Admiral Chen joined him at the window. They switched between advanced quantum manipulation and basic mechanical repairs with equal skill. "That's because we don't see them as different skills," Chen replied. "To us, it's all part of the same continuum of knowledge. Your quantum field specialists would be more effective if they also understood basic field mechanics." A human engineer floated past the window, guiding a piece of Valian equipment using nothing more complex than simple momentum and a tether. Behind them, a quantum field manipulator hummed, its advanced technology working in perfect harmony with the basic physics of space operations. "We believed we had transcended the need for such basic understanding," Krelixar admitted. "Our education system focuses purely on quantum mechanics and advanced theoretical physics. We've forgotten how to function without our technology." "That's the price of pride," Chen said. "When you believe you've reached the pinnacle, you stop looking for new paths up the mountain. Humanity never stops looking." Through another window, they could see one of the human diplomatic vessels, demonstrating its capabilities. The ship's quantum fields shifted and flowed in ways that seemed to bend reality itself, yet its movement through space still followed the basic laws of Newtonian physics. "Tell me," Krelixar turned to face Chen, "why maintain the deception? Why allow the galaxy to believe humans were technologically inferior when you're clearly centuries ahead in many areas?" Chen smiled. "Who said it was deception? Every piece of technology you've seen us use, from the simplest chemical rocket to our most advanced quantum fields, is exactly what it appears to be. We simply understand how to use each tool for its optimal purpose. Sometimes the most advanced solution isn't the best solution." A holographic display activated, showing the status of the fleet repairs. Human and Valian crews worked together, each learning from the other. Valian quantum specialists marveled at the elegant simplicity of human mechanical systems, while human engineers studied the complex beauty of Valian quantum matrices. "Your civilization achieved remarkable things by focusing entirely on quantum mechanics," Chen continued. "You pushed that technology to limits we hadn't even considered. But you also limited yourselves by ignoring other paths of development. Humanity's strength isn't in any particular technology. It's in our refusal to ignore any possibility, no matter how primitive it might seem." Krelixar watched as a human engineer taught a young Valian how to use a simple wrench, while nearby, a Valian scientist explained the intricacies of quantum field harmonics to an attentive human audience. "We call it technological cross-pollination," Chen explained. "Every technology, no matter how basic or advanced, has something to teach us. Your quantum field technology, for instance, we've already found ways to improve our own systems by studying your approaches, and I suspect your engineers are learning quite a bit about redundancy and fail-safes from our primitive designs." The Supreme Commander's scales shifted to a pattern that few humans would recognize, the rare combination indicating both humility and excitement. "The Empire's Council will need to reevaluate many of our basic assumptions. Our belief in our superiority nearly led us into a catastrophic conflict. That's the other reason we maintain our apparent technological disparity," Chen said. "It helps us identify which civilizations are ready for genuine exchange of knowledge, and which ones still need to learn some basic lessons about assumptions and pride." Through the window, they could see the quantum web still connecting the combined fleet, its impossible physics a testament to how much further both civilizations could go by working together. "Your quantum web technology," Krelixar gestured to the shimmering patterns between ships. It violates dozens of principles we believed were immutable laws of physics. No, Chen corrected gently. It violates dozens of assumptions about the laws of physics. There's a difference. The universe doesn't care what we believe is impossible. That's another lesson humanity learned early. The laws of physics are real, but our understanding of them is always incomplete. The observation deck fell silent as they watched the ongoing work. In space, human ships with their layered technologies moved alongside Valian vessels with their quantum sophistication, each complementing the other's strengths. "We have so much to learn from each other," Krelixar finally said. "The Council will want to establish formal diplomatic relations as soon as possible." "We look forward to it," Chen replied. "But remember, diplomacy, like technology, works best when built on a foundation of mutual understanding. Your empire will need to demonstrate its commitment to cooperation rather than conquest." Krelixar's scales rippled with determination. "I will personally ensure that the lessons of this encounter are not forgotten. The Valian Empire has existed for 10,000 years, but perhaps we are only now ready to truly grow." 5 years after the encounter that became known as the Quantum Revelation, the galactic landscape had changed in ways few could have predicted. The Great Hall of the Valian Science Academy, once dedicated purely to quantum mechanics, now hosted the first Galactic Technical Integration Summit. Representatives from dozens of species filled the chamber, each bringing their own unique technological perspectives. Supreme Commander, now Ambassador, Krelixar stood at the podium, his scales shimmering with the pearl-white hue of enlightenment as he addressed the assembled delegates. Behind him, a holographic display showed vessels of various species working together, their different technologies combining in ways that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. "The greatest barrier to progress," he began, "is not the limitations of technology, but the limitations we place upon our own thinking. 5 years ago, the Valian Empire believed we had reached the pinnacle of technological achievement. We were wrong, not because our technology was inferior, but because we had stopped looking for new ways to grow." In the audience, Admiral Chen sat alongside representatives from 24 species. The human delegation had become known for their unique approach to technological integration, teaching others how to combine advanced and basic technologies in ways that maximize the strengths of both. "Humanity taught us that true technological mastery isn't about achieving the most advanced solution," Krelixar continued. "It's about understanding every solution, from the most basic to the most sophisticated, and knowing when to apply each one." The holographic display shifted to show the new Valian fleet. The vessels still possessed their quantum sophistication, but now incorporated multiple layers of technology. Chemical thrusters provided backup propulsion. Mechanical systems offered redundancy. The quantum fields themselves had evolved, incorporating principles from various species to achieve effects that none could have managed alone. The Quantum Web Project, Krelixar gestured to another display showing the vast network of quantum connections now linking participating worlds, represents more than just technological achievement. It represents the power of combining different perspectives: human understanding of fundamental physics, Valian quantum manipulation, Algorian energy distribution, each piece essential, none sufficient alone. In the 5 years since the encounter, the galaxy had witnessed an unprecedented era of technological cooperation. The human approach to layered technology had sparked a revolution in engineering philosophy. Species that had once looked down on primitive solutions now studied them with keen interest, understanding that true resilience came from technological diversity. But perhaps the most valuable lesson, Krelixar's voice carried across the chamber, was learning that evolution never stops. The moment we believe we have reached the end of development is the moment we begin to stagnate. Humanity showed us that there is always another layer of understanding to achieve, another perspective to consider, another path to explore. The display showed footage from the new Galactic Engineering Academy, where students from all species learned technologies across the spectrum of complexity. Young Valians worked with simple mechanical tools alongside humans studying advanced quantum theory, each gaining appreciation for the full range of technological development. The old Valian Empire believed in the superiority of pure quantum technology. Krelixar continued. The new Valian Cooperative believes in the superiority of understanding. We have learned that true advancement comes not from abandoning old technologies for new ones, but from understanding how all technologies can work together. Admiral Chen watched with satisfaction as Krelixar unveiled the summit's major announcement, a new initiative to preserve and study technological approaches from all species, ensuring that no valuable knowledge would be lost in the rush toward advancement. 5 years ago, I commanded the most advanced fleet in the Empire. Krelixar's scales shifted to display patterns of both wisdom and humility. Today, I stand before you as a student of technology at all levels. The humans have a saying: the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. This is not a weakness. It is the foundation of true strength. The chamber erupted in approval as Krelixar activated the final display. Plans for a new type of vessel would incorporate technologies from all participating species. It would serve as both a practical demonstration of technological integration and a symbol of the new era of galactic cooperation. We stand at the edge of a new form of evolution, he concluded. Not the evolution of technology alone, but the evolution of understanding. Every species here has something to teach and something to learn. Together, we will explore possibilities that none of us could have imagined alone. As the applause filled the chamber, Admiral Chen reflected on how far they had come. What had started as a potential conflict had transformed into something far more valuable, a genuine partnership of civilizations, each contributing their unique perspectives to a greater whole. The humans had taught the galaxy about technological integration, but in return, they had gained new insights from every species they encountered. The age of technological isolation was over. In its place, a new era had begun, one where the measure of advancement was not the complexity of your technology, but the depth of your understanding. An era where every solution, from the simplest lever to the most sophisticated quantum field, had its place in the grand tapestry of galactic engineering.